The Comic English Grammar. Chapter 7. Of Adverbs. Having 064, as great a dislike as the youngest of our readers can have to repetitions, we shall not say what an adverb is over again. It is, nevertheless, right to observe that some adverbs are compared, as far, farther, farthest, near, nearer, nearest, in comparing those which end in lie. We use more and most, as slowly, more slowly, most slowly. There are a great many adverbs in the English language. Their number is probably even greater than that of abusive epithets. They are divisible into certain classes, the chief of which are number, order, place, time, quantity, manner or quality, doubt, affirmation, negation, interrogation, and comparison. A nice little list, truly, and perhaps some of our readers may suppose that we are going to exemplify it at length. If so, all we can say with regard to their expectation is that we wish they may get it gratified. In the meantime, we will not turn our grammar into a dictionary to please anybody. However, we have no objection to a brief illustration of the uses and properties of adverbs, as contained in the following passage. Formerly, when first I began to preach and to teach, whithersoever I went, the little boys followed me, and now and then pelted me with brickbats, as heretofore they pelted Ebenezer Grimes. And whensoever I opened my mouth, straightways the ungodly began to crow. Oftentimes was I hit in the mouth with an orange, yea, and once, moreover, with a rotten egg, whereat 065, there was much laughter, which, notwithstanding, I took in good part, and wiped my face and looked pleasantly. For peradventure I said, they will listen to my sermon, yea, and after that we may have a collection. So I was nowise discomfited. Wherefore I advise thee, brother Habakkuk, to take no heed of thy persecutors, seeing that I, whereas I was once little better off than thyself, have now a chapel of mine own. And herein let thy mind be comforted, that, preach as much as thou wilt against the bishop. Thou wilt not, therefore, in these days, be in danger of the pillory. Howbeit, and see VII Life of the late pious and Reverend Samuel Simcox, Letter to Habakkuk. Brown. Chapter 8. Of Prepositions. Prepositions are, for the most part, put before nouns and pronouns, as out of the frying pan into the fire. The preposition of is sometimes used as a part of speech of peculiar signification, and one to which no name has as yet been applied, as what you been doing of. At and up are not rarely used as verbs, but we should scarcely have been justified in so classing them by the authority of any polite writer, such use of them being confined to the vulgar, as now then, Bill, at him again. So she upped with her fists, and fetched him a whop. After is improperly pronounced arter, and against, agin, 066, as hallo, Jim, what are you arter? Don't you know that here's agin the law? Chapter 9. Of Conjunctions. A conjunction means literally a union or meeting together. Illustration 075. An ill-assorted marriage is a comical conjunction. But 067. Our conjunctions are used to connect words and sentences, and have nothing to do with the joining of hands. They are chiefly of two sorts, the copulative and disjunctive. The copulative conjunction is employed for the connection or continuation of a sentence, as Jack and Gill went up the hill. I will sing a song if Gubbins will. A thirsty man is like a giant because he is a grog for drink. The conjunction disjunctive is used not only for purposes of connection, but also to express opposition of meaning in different degrees, as we pay less for our letters, but shall have to pay more for our coats. They have lightened our postage, but they will increase our taxes. Conjunctions are the hooks and eyes of language, in which, as well as in dress, it is very possible to make an awkward use of them, as, for if The year consists of 365 days 6 hours, and January have 31 days. Then the relation between the corpuscular theory of light and the new views of Mr. Owen is at once subverted, for when ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly to be wise, because 1,760 yards make a mile, and it is universally acknowledged that war is the madness of many for the gain of a few. Therefore Sir Isaac Newton was right in supposing the diamond to be combustible. The Siamese twins, it must be admitted, form a singular conjunction. A tin pot fastened to a dog's tail is a disagreeable conjunction to the unfortunate animal. A happy pair may be regarded as an uncommon conjunction. The 068 word, as so often used in this and other grammars, is a conjunction, as Mrs. A is as well as can be expected. Illustration 077. Chapter 10 of Derivation. Those who know Latin, Greek, Saxon, and the other languages from which our own is formed, do not require to 069 be instructed in philological derivation, and on those who do not understand the said tongues, such instruction would be thrown away. In what manner English words are derived, one from another, the generality of persons know very well. There are, however, a few words and phrases, which it is expedient to trace to their respective sources, not only because such an exercise is of itself delightful to the inquiring mind, but because we shall thereby be furnished, as we hope to show, with a test by means of which, on hearing an expression for the first time, we shall be able, in most instances, to decide at once respecting its nature and quality. These words, of which many have but recently come into vogue, which, though by no means improper or immoral, are absolutely unutterable in any polite assembly, it is not, at first, very easy to see what can be the objection to their use, but derivation explains it for us in the most satisfactory manner. The truth is, that the expressions in question take their origin from various trades and occupations, in which they have for the most part a literal meaning, and we now perceive what horrible suspicions respecting one's birth, habits, and education their figurative employment would be likely to excite. To make the matter indisputably clear, we will explain our position by a few examples. 070. Words and phrases. What derived from to be done, cooks. To be done brown, ditto. A sell, a cheat, Jews. To lather, to beat, barbers. To strap, ditto, cobblers. To hide, ditto, couriers. Spicy, showy, grocers. To hang out, to dwell, publicans. Swamped, ruined, watermen. To put one's oar in, to interfere, ditto. Mahogany, for table, upholsterers. Dodge, trick, pickpockets. To bung up an eye, brawls. To chalk down, publicans. A close shaver, a miser, barbers. To be off your feed, ostlers. Hold hard, stop, omnibusmen. Numerous examples, similar to the foregoing, will, no doubt, present themselves, in addition, to the mind of the enlightened student. We have not, however, quite done yet with our remarks on this division of our subject. The intrinsic vulgarity of all modes of speech which may be traced to mean or disreputable persons will, of course, not be questioned. But and as we have got hold of a nice bone, we may as well get all the marrow we can out of it. The principle which is now under consideration has a much wider range than is apparent at first sight. Now we will suppose a red-hot lover addressing the goddess of his idolatry. By the way, how strange it is that these goddesses should be always having their temples 071 on fire, that a queen of hearts should ever be seated on a burning throne. But to return to the lover, he was to say something. Well, then, let a B be the lover. He expresses himself thus: Mary, my earthly hopes are centered in you. You need not doubt me, my Heart is true as the dial to the sun. Words cannot express how much I love you. Nor is my affection an ordinary feeling, it is a more exalted and a more enduring sentiment than that which bears it name. I have done. I am not eloquent, I can say no more than that I deeply and sincerely love you. This, perhaps, will be regarded by connoisseurs as tolerably pathetic, and for the kind of thing not very ridiculous. Now, let S.S. be the lover, and let us have his version of the same story. Mary, my capital in life is invested in you. You need not stick at giving me credit. My heart is as safe as the bank. The sum total of my love for you defies calculation. Nor is my attachment anything in the common way. It is a superior and more durable article than that in general wear. My stock of words is exhausted. I am no wholesale dealer in that line. All I can say is that I have a vast fund of unadulterated affection for you. In this effusion the stock exchange, the multiplication table, and the dry goods and grocers' shops have been drawn upon for a clothing to the suitor's ideas, and by an unhappy choice of words, the most delightful and amiable feelings of our nature, without which life would be a desert, and man a bear, are invested with a ridiculous disguise. We would willingly enlarge upon the topic which we have 072, thus slightly handled, but that we feel that we should by so doing entrench too far on the boundaries of rhetoric, to which science, more particularly than to grammar, the consideration of metaphor belongs. Besides which, it is high time to have done with etymology. Part 3. Syntax. Now then, reader, if you are quite ready, we are all right. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The asterisks are intended to stand for a word used in speaking to horses. Don't blush, young ladies, there's not a shadow of harm in it. But as to spelling it, we are as unable to do so as the ostler's boy was, who was thrashed for his ignorance by his father. Where are we now, coachman? The third part of grammar, sir, what treats of the agreement and construction of words in a sentence. Does a coachman say underscore what underscore for underscore which underscore because he has a license? Can't say, Drive on, coachman. And we must drive on, or boil on, or whatever it is the fashion to call getting on in these times. A. 073. Sentence is an aggregate of words forming a complete sense. Sentences are of two kinds, simple and compound. A simple sentence has in it but one subject and one finite verb, that is, a verb to which number and person belong, as, a joke is a joke. A compound sentence consists of two or more simple sentences connected together, as, a joke is a joke, but a ducking is no joke. Corpulence is the attribute of swine, mares, and oxen. Simple sentences may be divided, if we choose to take the trouble, into the explicative or explaining, the interrogative, or asking, the imperative, or commanding. An explicative sentence is, in other words, a direct assertion, as, Sir, you are impertinent. Johnson _. An interrogative sentence merely asks a question, as, Are you a policeman? How's your inspector? An imperative sentence is expressive of command, exhortation, or entreaty, as, shoulder arms. Turn out your toes. Charge bayonets. A phrase is two or more words properly put together, making either a sentence or part of a sentence, as, good morning. You're most obedient. Some phrases consist of two or more words improperly put together. These are improper phrases, as, now then, old stupid. Stand out of the sunshine. Other phrases consist of words put together by ladies, as, a duck of a man. A love of a shawl. So nice. Quite refreshing. Sweetly pretty. Did you ever? No, I never. Illustration. 083. Other phrases again consist of French and English words put together. By people of quality, because their knowledge, 074, of both languages is pretty nearly equal, as, I am a you dis boy.
Mis hors de combat.
Quite ennui, or rather in 9 cases out of 10, ennui, I have a great envy to do so and so. These constitute an important variety of comic English. If you want to know what subjects and objects are, you should go to the morgue at Paris. But in grammar, the subject is the thing chiefly spoken of, the attribute is that which is affirmed or denied of it, and the object is the thing affected by such action. The 075 nominative denotes the subject, and usually goes before the verb or attribute, and the word or phrase, denoting the object, follows the verb, as, the flirt torments her lover. Here, a flirt is the subject, torments, the attribute or thing affirmed, and her lover, the object. Illustration 084. It strikes us, though, that we are somewhat digressing from our subject, namely syntax, which, principally, 076, consists of 2 parts, which the flirt does not, for she is all body and no soul, concord and government. Concord is the agreement which one word has with another, in gender, number, case, or person. Note that a want of agreement between words does not invalidate deeds. We apprehend that such an engagement as the following, properly authenticated, would hold good in law. I owes John Stubbs $200 for Valley Resevden. Promise to pay him next Saturday. Signed Willum Gibbs is X mark. March 18, 1844. Also that a friend of ours, to whom the following bill was sent, could not have refused to discharge it on the score of its incorrect grammar. See page scan. Government, 077, is that power which one part of speech has over another, in directing its mood, tense, or case. Government is also that power, of which, if the agrarians have their way, we shall soon see very little in this country. Hurrah! No taxes. No army. No navy. No parsons. No lawyers. No Congress. No legislature. No anything. No nothing. To produce the agreement and right disposition of words in a sentence. The following rules, and observations, should be carefully studied. Rule I. A verb must agree with its nominative case in number and person, as I perceive. Thou hast been to Boston. Apes chatter. Frenchmen gabble. Certain liberties are sometimes taken with this rule, as, I own I likes good beer. You am a fine fellow, ain't you? Such modes of speaking are adopted by those who neither know nor care anything about grammatical correctness. But there are other persons who care a great deal about it, but, unfortunately, do not know what it consists in. Such folks are very fond of saying, how it rain. It fit you very well. He say he think it very unbecoming. I were gone before you, 078, was come, and so forth, in which forms of speech they perceive a peculiar elegance. The infinitive mood, or part of a sentence, is sometimes used as the nominative case to the verb, as, to be good is to be happy, which is as grammatical an assertion as Toby good is Toby happy, and rather surpasses it in respect of sense. That 2 pippins are a pair, is a proposition which no man in his senses will deny. To be a connoisseur in boots. To hate all rational pursuits. To make your money fly, as though gold would as fast as mushrooms grow. To haunt the opera, save Wiener. There's anything worth hearing there. To smirk, to smile, to bow, to dance. To talk of what they eat in France. To languish, simper, sue, and sigh. And stuff her bead with flattery. Are means to gain that worthless part. A fashionable lady's heart. Here are examples enough, in all conscience, of infinitive mood serving. As nominative oases. All verbs, save only in the infinitive mood or participle, require a nominative case either expressed or understood, as, row with me down the river, that is row thou, or do thou row. Come where the aspens quiver. Come thou, or do thou come. Fly not yet. Fly not thou, or do not thou fly. Pass the ruby. Pass thou, or do thou pass the ruby, not the rubicon. A 079, well-known popular song affords an example of the violation of this rule. Then as the captain come for to hear on tea, were he much applauded vot she'd done. Illustration 088. The verb applauded has here no nominative case, whereas it ought to have been governed by the pronoun he. He very much applauded, and see. Every nominative case, except when made absolute, or used, like the Latin vocative, in addressing a person, should belong to some verb. Implied if not expressed. A beautiful example of this grammatical maxim. 080 or and 1, 2, that explains itself, is impressed upon the mind very soon after its first introduction to letters, as, who killed Cock Robin? I said the sparrow. With my bow and arrow, I killed Cock Robin. Of the neglect of this rule also, the ballad lately mentioned presents an instance, as 24 brisk young fellows, clad in jackets, blue array, and they took poor Billy Taylor from his true love all Avery. The only verb in these 4 lines is the verb took, which is governed by the pronoun they. The 24 brisk young fellows, therefore, though undeniably in the nominative, have no verb to belong to, while, at the same time, whatever may be thought of their behavior to Mr. William Taylor, they are certainly not absolute in point of case. When a verb comes between 2 nouns, either of which may be taken as the subject of the affirmation, it may agree with either of them, as 2 and 6 is half a crown. Due regard, however, should be paid to that noun which is most naturally the subject of the verb. It would be clearly wrong to say, ducks and green peas is a delicacy. Fleas is a nuisance. A nominative case, standing without a personal tense of a verb, and being put before a participle, independently of the rest of the sentence, is called a case absolute, as, my brethren, tomorrow being Sunday, I shall, 081, preach a sermon in John Street, after which we shall join in a hymn, and that having been sung Brother Biggs will address you. The objective case is sometimes incorrectly made absolute by showmen and others, as, here, gentlemen and ladies, you will see that great warrior, Napoleon Bonaparte, standing agin a tree with his hands in his breeches pockets, him taking good care to keep out of harm's way. And there, on the extreme right, you will observe the Duke Wellington of Valking about, amidst the red-hot cannonballs, him not caring von straw. Illustration 090. Rule 2. 2 or more singular nouns, joined together by a copulative conjunction, expressed or understood are equivalent 082 to a plural noun, and therefore require verbs, nouns, and pronouns, agreeing with them in the plural number, as veal, wine, and vinegar are very good victuals I vow. Burke and Hare were nice men. A hat without a crown, a tattered coat, threadbare and out at elbows. A pair of breeches which looked like a piece of dirty patchwork, diversified by various holes, and of boots which a Jew would hardly have raked from a kennel, at once proclaimed him a man who had seen better days. This rule is not always adhered to in discourse quite so closely as a fastidious ear would require it to be, as, and so, you know, Mary, and I, and Jane was a-dusting the chairs, and in comes Mrs. Rule 3. When the conjunction disjunctive comes between 2 nouns, the verb, noun or pronoun, is of the singular number, because it refers to each of such nouns taken separately, as a cold in the head or a sore eye, is a great disadvantage to a lover. If singular pronouns, or a noun and pronoun of different persons, be disjunctively connected, the verb must agree with the person which stands nearest to it, as I or thou art, thou or I am, I, thou, or he is and see. But as this way of writing or speaking is very inelegant, and as saying, either I am, or thou art, and so on, will always render having recourse to it unnecessary, the rule just laid down is almost useless, except inasmuch as it suggests a moral maxim, namely, always be on good terms with your next-door neighbor. It also forcibly reminds us of some beautiful lines by Moore, 083, in which the heart, like a tendril, is said to twine round the nearest and loveliest thing. Now the person which is placed nearest the verb is the object of choice, ergo, the most agreeable person, ergo, the loveliest person or thing. Should a conjunction disjunctive occur between a singular noun or pronoun and a plural one, the verb agrees with the plural noun or pronoun, as neither a king nor his courtiers are averse to butter, particularly when thickly spread. Darius or the Persians were hostile to Greece. Rule 4. A noun or multitude, that is, one which signifies many, can have a verb or pronoun to agree with it either in the singular or plural number, according to the import of such noun, as conveying unity or plurality of idea, as the nation's humbugged. The multitude have to pay many taxes. The city council are at a loss to know what to do. The people is a many-headed monster. Rule V. Pronouns agree with their antecedents, and with the nouns to which they belong, in gender and number, as, this is the blow which killed Ned. England was once governed by a celebrated king, who was called Rufus the Red, but whose name was by no means so illustrious as that of Alfred. General M and the lieutenant had put on their boots. The lady appeared, and she smiled, but the smile belied her feelings. The relative being of the same person with the antecedent, 084, the verb always agrees with it, as thou who learnest syntax, I who enlighten thy mind. The objective case of the personal pronouns is by some, for want of better information, employed in the place of these and those, as let them things alone. Now then, gems, make haste with them chops. The adverb there is sometimes, with additional impropriety, joined to the pronoun them, as look after them their sheep. The objective case of a pronoun in the first person is put after the interjections o and are, as oh, dear me, and see. The second person, however, requires a nominative case, as oh, you good-for-nothing man. Ah, thou gay Lothario. Illustration 093. Rule 6. When 085, there is no nominative case between the relative and the verb. The relative itself is the nominative to the verb, as the master who flogged us, the rods which were used. But when the nominative comes between the relative and the verb, the relative exchanges, as it were, the character of sire for that of son, and becomes the governed instead of the governor, depending for its case on some word in its own member of the sentence, as he who is now at the head of affairs, whom the people delight to honor, and to whom is entrusted the helm of state is a poke. Rule 7. The relative and the verb, when the former is preceded by two nominatives of different persons, may agree in person with either, according to the sense, as I am the young gentleman who do the lovers at the Chatham, or who does. Illustration 095. Let this maxim be borne constantly in mind. A murderer of good characters should always be made an example of. Rule 8. Every adjective, and every adjective pronoun, relates to a substantive, expressed or implied, as Dando was an unprincipled, as well as a voracious man. Few quarrel with their bread and butter, that is, few persons. This is the wonderful eagle of the sun. That is, this eagle and see. Adjective pronouns agree in number with their substantives. This muff, these muffs, that booby, these boobies, another numbskull, other numbskulls. Some 086 people say, those kind of things, or this 4 and 20 year, neither of which expressions they have any business to use. Adjectives are sometimes improperly used as adverbs, as, he behaved very bad. He insulted me most gross. He eat and drank uncommon. He were beat very severe. It hailed tremendous or, more commonly, tremendous. Rule 9. The article a or an agrees with nouns in the singular number only, as a fool, an ass, a simpleton, a ninny, 087, a lout I would not give a farthing for 1,000 such. The definite article the may agree with nouns in the singular and plural number, as the toast, the ladies, the ducks. The articles are often properly omitted. When used, they serve to determine or limit the thing spoken of, as variety is charming. Familiarity doth breed contempt. A stitch in time saves 9. The heart that has truly loved never forgets. Rule X. One substantive, in the possessive or genitive case, is governed by another, of a different meaning, as a fiddlestick's end. Monkey's allowance. Virtue's reward. Illustration 096. Rule 11. Active verbs govern the objective case, as I kissed her. She scratched me. Virtue rewards her followers. For 088. Which reason she is like a cook. Verbs neuter do not govern an objective case. Observe, therefore, that such phrases, as she cried a good one, he came the old soldier over me, and so forth, are highly improper in a grammatical point of view, to say nothing of other objections to them. These verbs, however, are capable of governing words of a meaning similar to their own, as, in the affecting ballad of Giles Scroggins. I won't, she cried, and screamed a scream. The verb to be has the same case after it as that which goes before it. As, it was I not it was me. The grubs were they who eat so much tripe at our last party, not the grubs were them. Rule 12. One verb governs another that depends upon it, in the infinitive mood. As, cease to smoke pipes. Begin to wear collars. I advise you to shave. I recommend you to go to church. I resolved to visit the Carolinas. And there I learned to wheel about and jump Jim Crow. In general, the preposition to is used before the latter of two verbs. But sometimes it is more properly omitted, as, I saw you take it, young fellow, come along with me. Let me get hold of you, that's all. Did I hear you speak? I'll let you know. You dare not hit me. Bid me discourse. You need not sing. The proposition for is sometimes unnecessarily intruded into a sentence. In addition to the preposition to, before an infinitive mood, as, how came you for to think, 089, for to go, for to do such a thing. Do you want me for to punch your head? Adjectives, substantives, and participles often govern the infinitive mood, as, Miss Hopkins, I shall be happy to dance the next set with you. Oh, sir, it is impossible to refuse you. Have you an inclination to waltz? I shall be delighted in endeavoring to do so. The infinitive mood is frequently made absolute, that is, independent of the rest of the sentence, as, to say the truth, I was rather the worse for liquor. Not to mince matters, miss, I love you. Illustration 098. Rule 13. The 090 relation which words and phrases bear to each other in point of time should always be duly marked. Instead of saying, last night I intended to have made strong love to her, we should say, last night I intended to make strong love to her, because, although the intention of making strong love may have been abandoned, on reflection, this morning, and is now, therefore, a thing which is past, yet it is undoubtedly, when last night and the thoughts connected with it are brought back, again present to the mind. Rule 14. Participles have the same power of government with that of the verbs, from which they are derived, as, "Oh, what an exquisite singer Rubini is! I am so fond of hearing him. Look at that horrid man, I declare he is quizzing us. No, he is only taking snuff. See, how that thing opposite keeps making mouths. How fond they all are of wearing mustaches. Don't you like it? Oh, yes. There is no resisting them. Hi-oh! I am dying to have an ice. Young man for a husband, miss? For shame, sir. Don't be rude." Participles are sometimes used as substantives, as, the French mouth is adapted to the making of grimaces. The cobbler is like the parson, he lives by the mending of soles. The tailor reaps a good harvest from the sewing of cloth. Did you ever see a shooting of the moon? Is this what the witches mean when they sing, in the acting play of Macbeth? We fly by night. If 091, they shoot the moon, they are shooting stars. There is a mode of using the indefinite article before a participle, for which there is no occasion, as it does not convert the participle into a substantive, and makes no alteration in the sense of what is said. In this case the article, therefore, is like a wart, a wen, or a knob at the end of the nose, neither useful nor ornamental, as, going out shooting. Are you a-coming tomorrow? I was a-thinking about what Jem said. Here you are, a-going of it, as usual. A liberty not infrequently taken with the English language, is the substitution of the perfect participle for the imperfect tense, and of the imperfect tense for the perfect participle, as, he run like mad, with the great dog after him. Maria come and told us all about it. When I had wrote the Valentine, I sealed it with my thimble. He has rose to be a common asterisk councilman. I was chose Lord Mayor. I've eat lots of vention in my time. I should have spoke if you hadn't put in your or. You were mistook. He sent her an affecting copy of verses, which was wrote with a Perryian pen. Rule 15. Adverbs are generally placed in a sentence before adjectives, after verbs active or neuter, and frequently between the auxiliary and the verb, as, he came, sir, and he was most exceedingly drunk, he could hardly stand upon his legs, he made a very lame discourse, he spoke incoherently and ridiculously, and was impatiently heard by the whole assembly. He is fashionably dressed. She is conspicuously ugly. The eye of 092, jealousy, is proverbially sharp, and yet it is indisputably green. The French marquis was a very charming man, he danced exquisitely and nimbly, and was greatly admired by all the ladies. Illustration 101. Several adverbs have been coined of late, and some of them are very remarkable for a particular elegance, as, I reckon you're catawampously chawed up. In the example just given there is to be found, besides the new adverb, a word which, if not also new to the 093 English student, is rendered so both by its orthography and pronunciation, namely, _chawed _. This term is no other than chewed. Modified. Chawed up is a very strong expression, and is employed to signify the most complete state of discomfiture and defeat, when a man is as much crushed, mashed, and comminuted, morally speaking, as if he had literally and corporeally undergone the process of mastication. Catawampously is a concentration of hopelessly, tremendously, thoroughly, and irrevocably, so that catawampously chawed up, means, brought as nearly to a state of utter annihilation as anything, consistently with the laws of nature, can possibly be. For the metaphorical use of the word chawed, 3 several reasons have been given. 1. Familiarity with the manner in which the alligator disposes of his victims. 2. The cannibalism of the aborigines. 3. The delicate practice of chewing tobacco. Each of these is supported by numerous arguments, on the consideration of which it would be quite out of the question to enter in this place. Rule 16. 2 English negatives, like French lovers, destroy one another and become equivalent to an affirmative, as, the question before the house was not an unimportant one, that is, it was an important one. Mr. Brown was free to confess that he did not undertake to say that. He would not on some future occasion give a satisfactory answer to the honorable gentleman. Thus, at one and the same time, we teach our readers syntax and secretiveness. It is probable that small boys are often unacquainted with 094, this rule, for many of them, while undergoing personal chastisement, exclaim, for the purpose, as it would appear, of causing its duration to be shortened, "Oh pray, sir, oh pray, sir, oh pray, sir. I won't do so no more." Rule 17. Prepositions govern the objective case, as, what did the butcher say of her? He said that she would never do for him, that she was too thin for a wife, and he was not fond of a spare rib. The delicate ear is much offended by any deviation from this rule, as, in a shocking and vulgar song which it was once our misfortune to hear. There I found the faithless she, frying sausages for he. We had occasion, in the etymology, to remark on a certain misuse of the preposition of. This, perhaps, is best explained by stating that of in the instances cited, is made to usurp the government of cases which are already under a rightful jurisdiction, as, what are you got a eating of? He had been a beating of his wife. Rule 18. Conjunctions connect similar moods and tenses of verbs, and cases of nouns and pronouns, as, a coat of arms suspended on a wall is like an executed traitor, it is hanged, drawn, and quartered. If you continue thus to drink brandy and water and to smoke cigars, you will be like Boreas the north wind, who takes cold without wherever he goes, and always blows a cloud when it comes in his way. Do you think there is any 095 thing between him and her? Yes, he and she are engaged ones. Illustration 104. Note: to ask whether there is anything between 2 persons of opposite sexes is one way of inquiring whether they are in love with each other. It is not, however, in our opinion, a very happy phrase, inasmuch as whatever intervenes between a couple of fond hearts must tend to prevent them from coming together. Rule 19. Some conjunctions govern the indicative, some the subjunctive mood. In general, it is right to use the subjunctive, 096, when contingency or doubt is implied, as, if I were to say that the moon is made of green cheese. If I were a wiseacre. If I were a Wiltshireman. A lady, unless she be toasted, is never drunk. And when she is toasted, those who are drunk are generally the gentlemen. Illustration 105. Those conjunctions which have a positive and absolute signification require the indicative mood, as, he who fasts may be compared to a horse, for as the animal eats not a bit, so neither does the man partake of a morsel. The rustic is deluded by false hopes, for his daily food is gammon. Every philosopher has his weak points, and in the silver silvarum may be found some gammon of bacon. Rule XX. When a comparison is made between 2 or more things, the latter noun or pronoun is not governed by the 097 conjunction than or as, but agrees with the verb, or is governed by the verb or preposition, expressed, or understood, as, the French are lighter people than we, that is, than we are, and yet we are not so dark as they, that is, as they are. I should think that they admire me more than them, that is, than they admire them. It is a shame, Martha. You were thinking more of that young officer than me, that is, of me. Illustration 106. Sufficient attention is not always paid, in discourse, to this rule. Thus, a schoolboy may be often heard to exclaim, "What did you hit me for, you great fool? You're bigger than me. Hit someone of your own size. Not fling farther than him? Just can't I, that's all. You and I have got more marbles than them." Rule XXI. An 098 ellipsis, or omission of certain words, is frequently allowed, for the sake of avoiding disagreeable repetitions, and of expressing our ideas in a few words. Instead of saying, "She was a little woman, she was a round woman, and she was an old woman," we say, making use of the figure ellipsis, "She was a little, round, and old woman." When, however, the omission of words is productive of obscurity, weakens the sentence, or involves a violation of some grammatical principle, the ellipsis must not be used. It is improper to say, "Puddings fill who? Fill them," we should supply the word those. "A beautiful leg of mutton," and "turnips" is not good language. Those who would deserve what they are talking about ought to say, "A beautiful leg of mutton and fine turnips." In common discourse, in which the meaning can be eked out by gestures, signs, and inarticulate sounds variously modified, the ellipsis is much more liberally and more extensively employed than in written composition. "May I have the pleasure of ha, may constitute an invitation to take wine. I shall be choir may serve as an answer in the affirmative. So then you see he was you see, is perhaps an intimation that a man has been hanged. Well, of all the I never is often tantamount to 3 times as many words expressive of surprise, approbation, or disapprobation, according to the tone in which it is uttered. Will you, will you, will do. Either for "Will you be so impertinent, you scoundrel? Will you dare to do so another 099 time? Or, will you, dearest, loveliest, most adorable of your sex, will you consent to make me happy? Will you be mine? Speak. Answer, I entreat you. One word from those sweet lips will make me the most fortunate man in existence. There is, however, a kind of ellipsis which those who indulge in that style of epistolary writing, wherein sentiments of a tender nature are conveyed, will do well to avoid with the greatest care. The ellipsis alluded to is that of the first person singular of the personal pronoun, as instanced in the following model of a billet doux. Camberwell, April 1st, 1844. My dearest Fanny, have not enjoyed the balm of sleep all the livelong night. Encountered, last night, at the ball, the beau ideal of my heart. Never knew what love was till then. Derided the sentiment often, jested at scars, because had never felt a wound. Feel at last the power of beauty-right with a tremulous hand, waver between hope and fear. Hope to be thought not altogether unworthy of regard, fear to be rejected as having no pretensions to the affections of such unparalleled loveliness. Know not in what terms to declare my feelings. Adore you, worship you, dote on you, am wrapped up in you, think but on you, live but for you, would willingly die for you, in short, love you, and imploring you to have some compassion on one who is distracted for your sake, remain devotedly yours. Titu. Rule XXII. A 100 regular and dependent construction should be carefully preserved. throughout the whole of a sentence, and all its parts should correspond to each other. There is, therefore, an inaccuracy in the following sentence: Greenacre was more admired, but not so much lamented, as Burke. It should be, Greenacre was more admired than Burke, but not so much lamented. Of these two worthies there will be a notice of the following kind in a biographical dictionary, to be published 1,000 years hence in America. Greenacre, a celebrated critic who so cut up a blue-stocking lady of the name of Brown, that he did not leave her a leg to stand upon. Burke, a famous orator, whose power of stopping people's mouths was said to be prodigious. It is farther reported of him that he was only once hung up, and that on the occasion of the last speech he ever made. Perhaps it may be said that the rule last stated comprehends all preceding rules and requires exemplification accordingly. We therefore call the attention of the reader to the following paragraph, requesting him to consider what, and how many, violations of the maxims of syntax it contains. We teaches, that is, my son and me teaches, the boys English grammar. Tom or Dick have learned something every day, but Harry what is idler, whom I am sure will never come to no good, for he is always a-mihing, and doing those kind of things. He was catch but yesterday in a skittle grounds. He only makes his book all dog's ears. I beat he, too, pretty smartish, as I ought, you will say, for to have did. I was going to have 101, sent him away last week, but he somehow got over me as he do always. I have had so much trouble with he, that between you and I, if I was not paid for Illinois, I wouldn't have no more to do with such a boy. There never wasn't a monkey more mischievous than him, and a donkey isn't more stupider and not half so obstinate as that youngster. The syntax of the interjection has been sufficiently stated under Rule V. Interjections afford more matter for consideration in a treatise on elocution than they do in a work on grammar, but there is one observation which we are desirous of making respecting them, and which will not, it is hoped, be thought altogether foreign to our present subject. Almost every interjection has a great variety of meanings, adapted to particular occasions and circumstances, and indicated chiefly by the tone of the voice. Of this proposition we shall now give a few illustrations, which we would endeavor to render still clearer by the addition of musical notes, but that these would hardly express, with adequate exactness, the modulations of sound to which we allude, and, besides, we hope to be sufficiently understood without such help. This part of the grammar should be read aloud by the student, or, which is better still, the interjection, where it is possible, should be repeated with the proper intonation by a class, the sentence which gives occasion to it being read by the preceptor. We will select the interjection O as the source from which our examples are to be drawn. I'll give it to you, you idle dog, I will. Oh, pray, sir. Oh, pray, sir. Oh, oh, oh. I shall ever have the highest esteem for you, sir, but as to love, that is out of the question. Oh, 102, Matilda. I say, Jim, look at that chaffinch, there's a shy. Oh, crikey. Miss Timms, do you admire Lord Byron? Oh, yes. What do you think of Rubini's singing? Oh. So then, you see, we popped round the corner, and caught them just in the nick of time. Oh. Sir, your behavior has done you great credit. Oh. Oates are looking up. Oh. Honourable members might say what they pleased, but he was convinced, for his part, that the new poor law had given great general satisfaction. Oh. Oh. There being now no reason, or rule, to detain us in the syntax, we shall forthwith advance into prosody, where we shall have something to say, not only about rules, but also of measures. Part 4. Prosody. Prosody, 103, consists of two parts. Wherefore, although it may be a topic, a head, or subject for discussion, it can never be a point, for a point is that which hath no parts. Besides, there are a great many lines to be considered in the second part of prosody, which treats of versification. The first division teaches the true pronunciation of words, including accent, quantity, emphasis, pause, and tone. Lord Chesterfield's book about manners, which is intended to teach us the proper tone to be adopted in society, may be termed an ethical prosody. Lord Chesterfield may have been a polished gentleman, but Dr. Johnson was of the two the more shining character. Chapter 1. Of Pronunciation. Section I of Accent. Though penetrated ourselves by the desire of imparting instruction, we are far from wishing to bore our readers, and therefore we shall endeavor to repeat nothing here that we have said before. Accent, 104, is the marking with a peculiar stress of the voice a particular letter or syllable in a word, in such a manner as to render it more distinct or audible than the rest. Thus, in the word theatre, the stress of the voice should be on the letter E and first syllable, the, and in contrary, on the first syllable con. How shocking it is to hear people say contrary, the H. The friends of education will be reminded with regret that an error in the pronunciation of the first of these words is very early impressed on the human mind. Mary, Mary. Quite contrary. How does your garden grow? How many evils, alas, arise from juvenile associations? Words of two syllables never have more than one of them accented, except for the sake of peculiar emphasis. Gentlemen, however, whose profession it is to drive certain public vehicles called cabs, are much accustomed to disregard this rule, and to say polite or perlite, genteel, concern, police, and so on. Nay, they go so far as to convert a word of one syllable into two, for the sake of indulging in this style of pronunciation, and thus the word queer is pronounced by them as queer. The word amen, when standing alone, should be pronounced with two accents. The accents in which it usually is pronounced are very inelegant. Clerks, nowadays, alas, are no scholars. Dissyllables, formed by adding a termination, usually have the former syllable accented, as foolish, blockhead, and see see page scan. The 105 accent in dissyllables, formed by prefixing a syllable to the radical word, is commonly on the latter syllable, as I protest, I declare, I entreat, I adore, I expire. Protestations, declarations, entreaties, and adorations proclaim a swain to be simply tender, but expiration, for love, proves him to be decidedly soft. Illustration 114. A man who turns lover becomes a protestant, and his conduct at the same time generally undergoes a reformation, especially if he has previously been a rake. The zeal, however, of a reformed rake, like that of Jack in Dean Swift's Tale of a Tub, is sometimes apt to outrun his discretion. When the same word, being a dissyllable, is both a noun, 106, and a verb, the verb has mostly the accent on the latter, and the noun on the former syllable, as Molly, let Hymen's gentle hand cement our hearts together, with such a cement as shall stand, in spite of wind and weather. I do presage and oft a fact, a presage doth foretoken. Our mutual love shall ne'er contract, our contract ne'er be broken. There are many exceptions to the rule just enunciated, so that, correctly as well as familiarly speaking, it is perhaps no rule winking smiley for. Though verbs seldom have an accent on the former, yet nouns frequently have it on the latter syllable, as Mary and is my delight, both by day and eke by night. For by day her soft control soothes my heart and calms my soul, and her image while I doze comes to sweeten my repose. Fortune favouring my design. Please the pigs she shall be mine. The former syllable of most dissyllables ending in y, hour, o, le, ish. ck, ter, age, en, et, is accented, as granny, noodle, and c. Except allow, avow, endow, bestow, below. Sir, I cannot allow you your flame to avow. Endow yourself first with the rhino. My hand to bestow on a fellow below. Me, I'd rather be never mind. Underscore I underscore no. Music, of 107, in the language of the gods, is sometimes pronounced
musique.
Nouns of two syllables ending in have the accent on the former syllable, as butcher, baker. It is, perhaps, a singular thing, that persons who pursue the callings, denoted by the two words selected as examples, should always indicate their presence at an area by crying out, in direct defiance of prosody. But share, be acre, the latter syllable being of the two the more strongly accented. Disyllabic verbs ending in a consonant and e final, as disclose, repine, or having a diphthong in the last syllable, as believe, deceive, or ending in two consonants, as intend, are accented on the latter syllable. Matilda's eyes a light disclose, which with the star of Eve might vie. Oh, that such lovely orbs as those should sparkle at an apple pie. Thy love I thought was wholly mine. Thy heart I fondly hoped to rule. Its throne I cannot but repine at sharing with a goose-ba-why fool. Thou swearest no flatterer can deceive. Thy mind, thy breast no coxcomb rifle. Thou art no trifler, I believe. But why so plaguey fond of trifle? Why, when we're wed I don't intend to joke, Matilda, or be funny. I really fear that you will spend the honeymoon in eating honey. Most 108 disyllabic nouns, having a diphthong in the latter syllable, have the accent also on that syllable, as a hamlet that draws is sure of applause. A hamlet that draws? There are not many who can give even an outline of the character. In a few words ending in underscore, the accent is placed on the former syllable, as villain, which is pronounced as the natives of Whitechapel pronounce willing. Those dissyllables, the vowels of which are separated in pronunciation, always have the accent on the first syllable, as lion, scion, and sea. When is a young and tender shoot like a fond swain? When tease a scion? What's the most gentlemanly brute like, of all flowers? A underscore dandy underscore lion. Trisyllables, formed by adding a termination or prefixing a syllable, retain the accent of the radical word, as loveliness, sheepishness, knavery, assurance. The first syllable of trisyllables ending in ons, ul, ion, is accented in the generality of cases, as in the words serious, capital, and c. Dr. Johnson declared, with a serious face, that he reckoned a punster a villain. What would he have thought of the horrible case of a man who makes jokes that are killing? In his diction to speak 'tis not easy for one who must furnish both reason and rhyme. Sir, the rogue who has uttered a capital pun has committed a capital crime. Trisyllables, 109, ending in ce, ent, ate, y, re, le, and ud, commonly accent the first syllable. Many of those, however, which are derived from words having the accent on the last syllable and of those of which the middle syllable has a vowel between two consonants, are accepted. They who would elegantly speak should not say impudence, but cheek. Should all things eatable call prog. Eyes ogles, countenance physog. A coach should nominate a drag, and specify as moke, a nag. For excellent, use prime or bang up, or out and out, and scrag, for hang up. The theatre was wont to teach the public rectitude of speech. But we who live in modern age consult the gallery, not the stage. Trisyllables ending in ator have the accent placed on the middle syllable, as spectator, narrator, and c except orator, senator, and a few other words. Take care that you never pronounce the common name of the vegetable, sometimes called Irish fruit, pertator. A diphthong in the middle syllable of a trisyllable is accented, as. Also, in general, is a vowel before two consonants, as domestic. Endeavor. An endeavor to appear domesticated, or in common phraseology, to do. The domestic is sometimes made by young gentlemen, and generally with but an ill grace. A 110. Avoid such attempts, reader, on all occasions. And in particular never adventure either to nurse babies, or, when you shall have gone up to the ladies, to pour water into the teapot from the kettle. A legal or medical student sometimes thinks proper, from a desire of appearing at once gallant and facetious, to usurp the office of pouring out the tea itself, on which occasions he is very apt to betray his uncivilized habits by an unconscious but very unequivocal manipulation used in giving malt liquor what is technically termed a head. Many polysyllables are regulated as to accent by the words from which they are derived, as inexpressibles, substituted, unobjectionably, designated, transatlantic, delicacy, decidedly, unquestionable. Words ending in ator are commonly accented on the last syllable but one. Let them be as long as they may, as respirator, regulator, renovator, indicator, and all the other alias that we see in the newspapers. Many words ending in ion, ous, tie, ia, io, and cal have their accent on the last syllable but two, as considera, produce, impenetrabilitai, encyclopediae, braggaducio, antimonachai cal, all of which words we have divided into syllables, by way of a hint that they are to be pronounced, comically speaking, after the manner of Dominie Sampson. Words that end in la usually have the accent on the first syllable, as amicable, despicable, and c, although we have heard people say despicable. I never see such a despicable fellow, not in all my born days. Words of this class, however, the second syllable of which has a vowel before two consonants, are often differently 111 accented, as in respectable, contemptible. Illustration 120. Having, in compliance with grammatical usage, laid down certain rules. With regard to accent, we have to inform the reader that there are so many exceptions to almost all of them, that perhaps there is scarcely one which it is worth while to attend to. We hope we have some measure amused him, but as to instruction, fear that, in this part of our subject, we have given him 112, very little of that. Those who would acquire a correct accent had better attend particularly to the mode of speaking adopted in good society, avoid debating clubs, and go to church. For farther satisfaction and information we refer them, and we beg to say that we are not joking to _Walker_. Section 2. Of quantity. The quantity of a syllable means the time taken up in pronouncing it. As there is in arithmetic a long division and a short division, so in prosody is quantity considered as long or short. A syllable is said to be long when the accent is on the vowel, causing it to be slowly joined in pronunciation to the next letter, as flea, small, creature. A syllable is called short when the accent lies on the consonant, so that the vowel is quickly joined to the succeeding letter, as crack, little, devil. The pronunciation of a long syllable commonly occupies double the time of a short one, thus, part, and broke, must be pronounced as slowly, again as pat, and knock. We have remarked a curious tendency in the more youthful students of grammar to regard the quantity of words, in their lessons, more as being small or great than as coming under the head of long or short. Their predilection for small quantities of words is very striking and peculiar. Food for the mind they seem to look upon as physic, and all physic, in their estimation, is most agreeably taken in infinitesimal doses. The homeopathic system of acquiring knowledge, 113, is more to their taste than even the Hamiltonian. It is quite impossible to give any rules as to quantity worth reading. The Romans may have submitted to them, but that is no reason why we should. We will pronounce our words as we please, and if foreigners want to know why, we will tell them that, when there is no law to the contrary, we always does as we likes with our own